I, along with my sister, unlocked a selection system. The system inquired, 1 billion or your biological mother, which do you choose? Without a moment's hesitation, my sister opted for the billion, subsequently marrying into the illustrious G family and acquiring a dowry of 1 billion. Meanwhile, I found myself living a mundane life alongside our remarried mother. Little did I know that within less than 3 years, the G family would face bankruptcy and her husband would abscond with their wealth, leaving her to bear the brunt of the consequences and serve time in prison. Upon her release, her first course of action was to seek my demise. In the blink of an eye, my sister and I found ourselves back on that fateful day of choices once more. This time, she was the first to declare her allegiance to our mother. I chuckled, finally relieved that someone else would venture into that den of wolves. I choose my mother. My twin sister, Zheng Qiang, proclaimed this with unabashed pride, her expression mirroring that of her previous choice from our past life. Previously, she had selected the billion, only to meet a dismal fate. It seemed this time she was brimming with confidence in her decision. I had no choice but to accept the Ji family's billion-dollar dowry and wed Ji Tingxian, the son of our nation's wealthiest magnate, on the day of our wedding. The spectacle was nothing short of sensational, drawing luminaries from every sector across the nation, yet the groom was conspicuously absent. In my past life, Zheng Qiang had experienced a similar scenario upon her marriage. Ironically, Ji Tingxian was rather juvenile. He refused to attend the wedding solely to demonstrate his unwavering affection for his idealized love. Deep down, I understood that whether he had married my sister in the past or me this time, it was primarily due to familial pressure for him to wed, as we bore a striking resemblance to his idealized counterpart. And his words, sufficiently pleasing to the eye, due to the groom's absence, the atmosphere at the wedding became exceedingly awkward. I stood alone beside the officiant, catching sight of Zheng Qiang amidst the crowd, her face alight with mockery. During her own wedding, she had faced this very predicament. Filled with anxiety and anger, she had dissolved into tears, rendering an already uncomfortable situation even more so. This time, she seemed resolute in witnessing the debacle, for my sister had always harbored a disdain for my flourishing success. And our childhood, she was the playful one, while I devoted myself to my studies and excelled, garnering accolades from the school. Unable to bear it, she conspired with local ruffians to bully me. Yet, it was precisely her relentless rivalry that forged my resilience and indifference to accolades and slights alike. I bore no resentment, completing the officiant's prescribed rituals with a serene smile. As I descended to toast the guests, several affluent ladies lauded my composure and grace, remarking on how I handled the situation with remarkable poise. They assumed I was harboring profound grievances, struggling internally to maintain appearances, yet unbeknownst to them, I was genuinely unfazed. So, what if the groom was absent? As long as the billion reached my account, all was well. After all, I hadn't married for that foolish man. 2. On the night of the wedding, as soon as we returned home, my mother-in-law unleashed her fury upon Ji Tingxian, berating him as a failure who lacked foresight, nearly bringing disgrace upon the Ji family. Do you not understand? If it weren't for Han Nin's holding the situation together today, our family would have been the laughingstock of everyone. Faced with his biological mother's accusations, Ji Tingxian appeared visibly aggrieved. My mother-in-law, frustrated by his shortcomings, exclaimed, "How can you be dissatisfied when you have managed to marry a girl like Han Nin's? Do you genuinely believe she is marrying you out of a sense of elevation? I would argue that it is we who are fortunate." Enough. Ji Tingxian interrupted. "I do not care who she is." With that, he rose from the sofa, strode towards me, and fixed his gaze upon me, devoid of any warmth. "You are merely a substitute. A substitute must understand their role. Remember this, I will never lay a finger on you, so do not even entertain notions of trying to win me over." My goodness! The sheer obnoxiousness radiating from him was unbearable. Had it not been for my mother-in-law's presence, I would have longed to distance myself from him, as I have a strong aversion to foolishness. I forced a disingenuous smile and replied, "That would be for the best." 3. Zheng Qiang was even more impatient than I had anticipated. Barely a month into my marriage, she was eager to flaunt her newfound relationship, concocting a compelling reason to ensure I would not reject her visit, even enlisting my mother to assist her. "Your sister has found a rather impressive boyfriend, and I worry she may be deceived. Would you help me assess this man?" We arranged to meet at a CAF, a location chosen by Zheng Qiang. Before we could exchange more than a few pleasantries, she began to boast that this was her favorite establishment. With that, she linked her arm with Lin Jiqiang's, her face beaming with sweetness. Ah Chang dotes on me. Knowing I adore this place, he promptly acquired a membership here. I mused to myself. Given Zheng Qing's modest salary of 2,800 a month, it was inconceivable that she could afford the luxury of such an upscale CAF. It seemed she was merely flaunting the wealth of others. I maintained my composure, offering a polite smile. We must extend our gratitude to Mr. Lin for his patronage of this establishment. Indeed, this CAF was under my ownership, with my assets amounting to 1 billion. It was rather mundane to let them languish in a bank accruing interest, thus investing was a perfectly reasonable endeavor. Zheng Qing, who had been savoring her coffee with an air of sophistication, abruptly set her cup down upon hearing my words. One ought not to invest recklessly. Be wary of bankruptcy. Sensing Lin Jiqiang's puzzled gaze upon her, she hastily lifted her cup once more, taking a sip before slowly articulating, "What I mean is, I have come to realize that money is insignificant. What truly matters is the sincerity of those around us." Once this topic was broached, she became quite verbose, extolling Lin Jiqiang's virtues, recounting how accomplished he was and how obedient he was to her wishes. As I observed Zheng Qing, I felt a pang of pity. What had clouded her judgment? After living a lifetime, how could she remain so oblivious? Money pales in comparison to a man's genuine affection. What lunacy was she uttering? Furthermore, how could I not comprehend the true nature of Lin Jiqiang? For, in my previous life, I had also shared a romantic entanglement with Lin Jiqiang, having met him at a gathering hosted by Wu Dexing. At that time, he was Wu Dexing's prized protégé, while my mother was engaged in courtship discussions with Wu. Lin Jiqiang was exceptionally talented, already a top expert in the field by the age of 30, and he treated me with great kindness. Thus, when he pursued me fervently, I found it difficult to refuse. However, my mother, adhering to Wu Dexing's advice, vehemently opposed the match. Lin Jiqiang even suggested we get on board first and settle the affair later, to which I firmly declined. Little did I know that my refusal would unveil his true nature. He began to spread malicious rumors about me, causing me considerable distress that took a long while to quell. Later, I discovered that his eagerness to marry me stemmed from the fact that his esteemed expert status was fabricated. He had long been struggling in his career and sought to leverage Wu Dexing's academic reputation to secure a position at the university. Could such a man possess genuine affection? Even if he did, it would be worthless. Yet, his sordid affairs were but trivial compared to the vile machinations of Wu Dexing. Seizing the opportunity while Lin Jiqiang was in the restroom, I resolved to issue a warning to Zheng Qing. After all, she was my own sister, and I did not wish to see her fall prey to such a scoundrel. Do not invest your efforts in the Lin family. Neither Wu Dexing nor our mother would approve. I took a sip of coffee and added, to be precise, neither of them would approve of your choice of partner. Stop your nonsensical ramblings. Are you not simply envious? Your husband refuses to touch you, and thus you cannot bear to see me and a Chong so affectionate. Moreover, Uncle Wu has always treated me well. Your previous discord with him was due to your unlikable nature. I scoffed. Ah. It seems you believe you are particularly favored by Wu Dexing. I have nothing further to say. 5. I have been exceedingly busy of late, engrossed in the pursuit of wealth. Beyond the CAF, I possess several other ventures. With my financial resources at hand, investing has become a most exhilarating endeavor, finally fulfilling my long-held dream of entrepreneurship. In the past, I had yearned to save enough to open my own establishment, and over the years, I had sampled nearly every profession imaginable. I acquired in-depth knowledge of product production, sales, and after-sales services. However, it is no easy feat for a mere employee to accumulate sufficient capital for business endeavors. I never achieved that goal in my previous life. Yet, in retrospect, it was precisely the invaluable experience gained from these foundational roles that afforded me a deeper understanding of the market, clientele, and most importantly, employees than other investors. After several months, my capital of 1 billion not only remained intact but also flourished, though I had no intention of divulging this to anyone. One day, as I reclined in bed, reveling in my bank account balance, Ji Tingxian abruptly entered the bedroom, wearing an expression of displeasure as he fixed his gaze on me. Woman, do not presume that feigning indifference will attract my attention. I lifted my head, regarding him with a look of incredulity. What a foolish notion. I nonchalantly replied, if you have nothing to do, perhaps you should find something to occupy yourself with instead of lingering before me. I am busy counting my money and have no time for you. Ji Tingxian, seemingly fueled by some inexplicable ire, launched into a tirade, money, money, money. You are just like every other woman, only concerned with spending. I internally scoffed at his ignorance. I doubt anyone could comprehend the consequences of frivolous spending better than I. After all, I had witnessed Zheng Qing's downfall firsthand. In her reckless extravagance, she squandered a dowry of 10 billion within 2 years, only to realize the importance of nurturing marital bonds when it was too late. At that point, Ji Tingxian was already infatuated with his white moonlight. I was not like her. I had never intended to maintain a semblance of a marital relationship that was inherently non-existent. Why waste time on such meaningless endeavors? Would it not be more gratifying to focus on accumulating wealth? A month later, I boarded a flight to the country with my mother-in-law. She was embarking on a vacation, while my reasons were twofold: to conduct market research for my idol and to escape Ji Tingxian, who had been increasingly present in my life, each appearance marked by his domineering demeanor. Woman, no amount of feigned indifference will change the fact that I will not spare you a glance. I struggled to articulate my disdain for him. I genuinely held him in contempt for his idleness. With a man like him at the helm, could a business truly thrive? Ji Tingxian soon provided a resounding answer to that question through his actions. It could not. He utterly lacked the most fundamental decision-making abilities expected of a leader. Since my return to the country over half a month ago, my mother-in-law has been inundated with phone calls regarding company affairs, the majority of which are placed by Ji Tingxian himself. At nearly 30 years of age, this grown man behaves like a child, seeking his mother's opinion on every matter. He lacks decisiveness and is ill-equipped to navigate the ever-changing tides of the business world. My mother-in-law is thoroughly exasperated and has already booked her return flight. My intention for this holiday was to ascertain whether Tingxian could independently manage the company in my absence. It seems I have overestimated him. In contrast, you exhibit a maturity far beyond his. Observing your research efforts over the past few days has reminded me of my own youthful days spent managing affairs alongside his father. I maintain my initial sentiment. The Ji family is indeed fortunate to have a woman of your caliber. As I gaze upon this earnest and kindly elder, it becomes difficult to reconcile her with the malicious mother-in-law described by Zheng Qing. Yet, in this moment, I comprehend that my mother-in-law does not harbor animosity towards anyone in particular. She simply detests incompetence. Her disdain for her useless son extends to Zheng Qing, that utterly unaccomplished daughter-in-law. By chance, we share a mutual understanding in our aversion to ineptitude. Upon my return home, my foremost objective was to establish an entertainment company and vigorously recruit trainees. The entertainment industry is a realm I, Zheng Kehan, must conquer, and I intend to thrive abundantly. Upon learning of my ambitions, my mother-in-law wholeheartedly supported my endeavors, investing substantial funds and leveraging her connections to secure various opportunities for my trainees. Initially, I hesitated, reluctant to owe her such a significant favor. However, her words alleviated my concerns. Do not mistake this for indulgence. I am conducting business. I cannot place all my eggs in one basket, particularly when that basket, Ji's enterprise, appears rather precarious. With her support, my trainees swiftly garnered a modicum of fame. Recently, a program titled Let's Form a Group Trainees was in the works, and I enrolled my trainees. As one of the financial backers of the show, I found myself seated as a judge. The trainees from various companies showcased their talents, yet everyone understood that they were merely a backdrop to highlight the imminent star. Greetings, everyone. I am Lin Qingyan. Lin Qingyan, the widely acknowledged favorite to win, the ethereal white moonlight of Ji Tingxian. It must be said, Lin Qingyan's beauty is indeed a costly investment, captivating the eye and explaining why that foolish Ji Tingxian is so entranced. Yet, for all her allure, her talent performance was woeful, a rhythmically challenged rap that turned my stomach. Her image is impeccable, but her professional abilities require significant refinement. I believe my critique was gentle. Yet much to my surprise, Lin Qingyan's team, mirroring her demeanor, aggressively marketed her as a victim. Lin Qingyan subtly alluded to her past entanglement with Ji Tingxian, steering public opinion to portray me as a malicious woman who ensnares love and ascends into a wealthy family through nefarious means. After just one episode aired, my notoriety eclipsed all other trainees, a result precisely aligned with her team's intentions. The gossip-hungry public was now fixated on Ji Tingxian's stance. In truth, the industry is well aware that a president of a publicly listed company cannot afford to engage with such frivolous rumors. However, they have overestimated Ji Tingxian's intellect. I received a call from him. All you need to do is admit your indifference to me is feigned, and I might begrudgingly assist you this time. What an imbecile. I hung up, having long suppressed the urge to express my disdain. Half an hour later, I saw the headline, President Xi publicly backs Lin Qingyan, presenting a token of affection. You fool. Has a donkey kicked your brain? I furiously confronted Ji Tingxian, slapping him across the face as I berated him. He held his reddened cheek, staring at me in disbelief. The last person who struck me was my mother. Woman, you are playing with fire. I retorted. If you continue to blur the lines between public and private matters, you will truly be the one to suffer the consequences. Do you honestly believe Lin Qingyan is of any worth? He smirked. Ah, woman. You are indeed jealous of Yan Yan, but do you think you are worthy? Exhausted. I felt a sense of despair. I had hoped to awaken him to the dangers of Lin Qingyan and spare my mother-in-law's hard work from going to waste. However, it appears that such efforts are futile. With a leader like him, it would be unreasonable for Ji's enterprise not to collapse. Ji's rival, Guoguang Group, seized this golden opportunity. Capitalizing on the gossip surrounding Ji Tingxian and Lin Qingyan, they fervently disseminated rumors about Ji Tingshuan's chaotic personal life, revealing that the token of affection was, in fact, a limited edition of a brand considered derogatory to the nation. In an instant, Ji Tingshuan's reputation plummeted, and with it, the stock price of Ji's enterprise. I glanced at my bank account, which swelled day by day, unperturbed. He may face his downfall while I continue to earn, each unaffected by the other. Yet, to Zeng Qing, this perception was evidently misguided. She was convinced that I was equally implicated in Ji Tingshuan's misfortunes, so when she heard of the stock market's decline, she promptly called to mock me. Although I had boasted to a Chong, Uncle Wu treated me exceptionally well, showering me with luxury gifts and unconditionally supporting my pursuits. Unlike you, who, despite having a wealthy husband, is clearly disregarded by him. In conclusion, she added, Oh, my apologies. I forgot to mention that your wealthy husband is also on the brink of bankruptcy. I remained silent and hung up. Sometimes, watching someone perform like a fool can be quite disheartening. Wu Dexing is the type of person who spends money like water, particularly fond of lavishing it on young women. Although his pension is not insignificant, it cannot sustain such extravagance. In my previous life, my mother worked multiple jobs, toiling tirelessly, and I had advised her to part ways with Wu Dexing. Yet, she insisted that finding a considerate companion at her age was no easy feat. Realizing I could not dissuade her, I resolved to earn more to support her, which led me to resign from my position as a gymnastics teacher in hopes of exploring broader opportunities. Thus, I became the one juggling multiple jobs. However, the most challenging aspect was not the pressure from work, but rather my mother's insatiable greed. She never expressed concern for my well-being. She only lamented that my contributions were insufficient. Gradually, I came to realize that my mother was hopelessly enamored, willing to treat me like a beast of burden for the sake of that old man, Wu Dexing. And what of the present? My sister is notoriously lazy, and relying on her to earn money is utterly out of the question. Thus, my mother must bear the burden alone. With her frail physique, how can she endure such exploitation? Sure enough, it wasn't long before I received a call from my mother, weeping and painting her circumstances in the most tragic light. I believed every word she uttered. Yet what did it have to do with me? I coolly remarked before ending the call. Remember, excessive altruism often leads to undesirable outcomes. One must learn to relinquish the urge to help and respect the fates of others. The competition for Let's Form a Group Trainees has reached its midpoint, with contestants striving vigorously for debut positions, yet Lin Qingyan remains an exception. Had I not witnessed it with my own eyes, I would find it hard to believe that, at this stage of the competition, someone could perform Dance Diva so poorly. Her movements were distorted, her voice off-key. As she sang the final line, "No one sees the joys and sorrows of the Dance Diva." I endured the entire song, but I could no longer contain myself. No one sees my joys and sorrows either. The entire studio fell into an abrupt silence. My blood surged as I sternly exclaimed, "If you had attended even a single gymnastics class, it would be impossible for you to perform this piece, which incorporates rhythmic gymnastics movements, in such a manner. Have you shown any respect for the audience? For rhythmic gymnastics itself? This is an affront to the sport." As soon as I finished speaking, a few fans behind me expressed their dissatisfaction. What is wrong with this woman? Does she even understand gymnastics? Our Yan Yan has worked so hard. That old woman is just jealous of Yan Yan. Lin Qingyan maintained her composure, a subtle smile gracing her lips. Sister Kohan is right. I am indeed not very skilled in this area. However, from what you've said, it seems you possess a profound understanding of rhythmic gymnastics. Would you care to demonstrate personally? With that, she raised the colorful ribbon she had used for her performance. I realized she was provoking me. She radiated a dazzling and elegant smile, but that would soon fade. I took the ribbon from her hand and, with a series of spins and jumps, closed my eyes, executing the movements fluidly and beautifully. After a long hiatus, I felt somewhat rusty. I returned the ribbon to Lin Qingyan with a smile, and she appeared utterly bewildered. However, her confusion would soon deepen. That very afternoon, someone online unearthed another identity of mine that I had never mentioned, a former world champion in rhythmic gymnastics. These were accolades from the past, which I deemed unworthy of mention. Yet, the public's fascination with this facet of my identity surpassed my wildest expectations. Within mere hours, news of my accomplishments spread across the internet, with everyone marveling at my excellence and admiring my humility. I had always maintained that an ordinary person could not wed into a wealthy family without possessing exceptional talents. What nonsense are you spouting? She's a world champion. The G family has truly struck gold. Thanks to my status as a world champion, the reputation of G Enterprises experienced a resurgence, with stock prices finally beginning to rise after a prolonged decline. The G family had narrowly escaped disaster. My mother-in-law, who had been anxious for days, could finally breathe a sigh of relief. I remarked, securing Han Han as your daughter-in-law is indeed a stroke of good fortune for the G family. You should recognize that. It was only much later that I discovered the individual who first revealed my champion status online was, in fact, hired by my mother-in-law. When I inquired about her motives, she beamed with pride. My daughter-in-law is so outstanding, I cannot allow her to be bullied by those insignificant individuals. As I flourished amidst these developments, Lin Qingyan's circumstances took a turn for the worse. Following the dancer incident, her popularity plummeted. Despite the company pouring resources into her abysmal performance capabilities rendered those efforts futile, prompting the company to consider promoting others instead. Thus, Lin Qingyan became a discarded pawn. Some malevolent winds of speculation suggested I would seize this opportunity to trample her down to elevate my own trainee. Lin Qingyan, desperate to salvage her dignity, appeared on camera, tearfully lamenting her immense pressure, poor condition, and feelings of being targeted, hinting at the possibility of withdrawing from the competition due to the overwhelming stress. Meanwhile, online commentators insinuated that I had suppressed her. In reality, this was merely a desperate struggle. She had already been forsaken by the company, a fact as solid as iron. No matter how much she flailed, it would only serve to financially enrich the marketing agencies, and I merely needed to watch quietly. But I had overlooked the fact that I had a rather incompetent ally in Ji Tingxian. This time, he promptly took a stand. However, unlike the last occasion, he firmly aligned himself with me. I stormed into his office, incensed by the triumphant expression on his face, and my anger surged. Did you not comprehend my previous admonition to separate personal matters from professional ones? Are you truly that dense? He, bewildered and furious, retorted, You ungrateful woman. I'm protecting you, yet you remain unsatisfied. What more do you desire from me? My phone vibrated in my pocket, and upon glancing at it, my heart sank. The actions of our rival company were even swifter than I had anticipated. After witnessing Ji Tingxuan's outrageous statements of allegiance, I immediately contacted public relations to mitigate the potential fallout, but it seemed I had been a step too late. Ji Tingxuan's negative publicity had already saturated the internet. Was his recent support for Zheng Kehan merely an act of self-sabotage? It was laughable, a rotten cucumber attempting to establish a romantic image. In an instant, various salacious rumors about him were unearthed. I was aware these were fabrications, but the public's appetite for gossip is insatiable. For 3 consecutive days, the scandal remained a hot topic. I was resolute in having him clean up his own mess, but after a month of ineffectual efforts, it was ultimately my mother-in-law who intervened to resolve the situation. That evening at the family banquet, my mother-in-law appeared exhausted. I'm getting old and have longed to step back. This is my final assistance to you. From now on, do not come to me for any matters concerning the business. You should heed your wife's advice. He adeptly seized the opportunity. Wife, what suggestions do you have for the company's future development? I took a sip of red wine and glanced at my mother-in-law. Mom, if conditions permit, I suggest you have another child. As if the heavens conspired against me, trouble continued to rain down. Just as I resolved the mess left by Ji Tingxian, I received news that my mother was ill and hospitalized. As Ji Tingxian and I arrived at the ward, my mother launched into a tirade. "You little brat. You finally decided to show up. I suppose you have a shred of conscience." As if that were the case, we were actually there to retrieve the 500,000 Ji Tingxian had sent to you. This foolish man, in a bid to curry favor with me, transferred 500,000 without a second thought upon hearing of my mother's hospitalization. Thankfully, he sought my approval immediately afterward, or I might have unwittingly lost 500,000. Zeng Kahan. How can you be so unreasonable? Not only are you unwilling to contribute, but you also plan to take back the money your brother-in-law gave? I shot her a cold glance as Zeng King returned from shopping, laden with bags, followed closely by Wu Dexing. It seemed they had been out for a leisurely shopping spree. My mother had worn herself out to support these two leeches, and yet they found the leisure to shop. How dare they criticize me? I scoffed. Oh, purchasing so many luxury items, that wouldn't be the 500,000 my family lent you, would it? What concern is it of yours? The money was lent to me by my brother-in-law. It has nothing to do with you. I teased. Oh, your brother-in-law has had a change of heart and intends to reclaim it. Zeng King blinked her large eyes, gazing at Ji Tingxian. Brother-in-law, is what she said true? I remained impassive, looking at Ji Tingxian, who resembled a submissive kitten, obediently nodding, which earned him a smile from me. I then turned to Zeng King. If you don't intend to repay, then simply pay interest. As she began to transfer money while grumbling, "You heartless wretch. All you care about is money, unlike me, who values feelings." I glanced at her, then at Wu Dexing, who was eagerly fawning over her. "If you value feelings so much, that's splendid. Uncle Wu holds you in deep regard." Before I knew it, the night of the group formation had arrived. In front of millions, Han Zishi, from the same company as Lin Qingyan, unexpectedly claimed the championship and made her debut. Many may have deemed this outcome surprising. Yet I understood that this young girl's talent deserved such recognition. I had witnessed her practicing late into the night alone. I had seen her endure painful falls while attempting difficult moves, crying yet getting back up to practice. I had seen her dance even with a 40-degree fever. Hooked up to and for. Honestly, she worked harder and excelled more than any of the trainees under my guidance. Now, she stands at the very center of the stage, cradling the trophy in her hands, weeping like a child under the spotlight of countless gazes. Through her sobs, she expresses her boundless gratitude towards me, asserting that it is solely because of my support that she has reached this pinnacle. In the days leading up to the competition, rumors circulated that I was leveraging my resources to suppress other trainees in order to elevate my own artist, with unscrupulous marketing accounts confidently declaring that the ultimate victory would undoubtedly belong to my protege. However, reality delivered a resounding slap to these naysayers. Indeed, I did wield my resources, but they were directed towards the sponsorship of Han Zishi. During that period, murmurs among the trainees hinted that Han Zishi might withdraw from the competition. For a girl so passionate about the stage to contemplate such a retreat must have stemmed from dire circumstances. Upon investigation, I discovered that her father had fallen gravely ill and lacked the means for treatment. Without hesitation, I covered all his medical expenses, allowing her to focus entirely on the competition without worry. Dreams are precious, and children from ordinary families should pursue their aspirations with courage. I hope you will never utter the words of surrender, for I am here for you. I had thought that after the conclusion of the show's recording, I would be able to distance myself from the swirling rumors and enjoy a well-deserved respite. Yet, fate had different plans. As the secret formula of the Ji family's flagship product was leaked, in my past life, the Ji family never recovered from this calamity, leading to their bankruptcy 6 months later, a scandal that reverberated through the media. My sister, in tears, accused Lin Qingyan of treachery, claiming she had turned to the embrace of the president of Guoguang Group upon realizing her own ascent was futile. The formula had been extracted from Ji Tingxian and subsequently disclosed. However, in this life, Ji Tingxian has already severed ties with Lin Qingyan, pledging his unwavering loyalty to me. How could she still manipulate him? Ji Tingxian stammered. She threatened that if I didn't give her the formula, she would have you kidnapped. I rubbed my forehead in exasperation. Do you know why she hasn't simply kidnapped me? Is it because she dislikes me? I shouted in frustration. I go out every day with 2 bodyguards. What does she think she can do? Does she even have a brain? Even if she succeeded, what difference would it make? Am I worth more, or is the formula? You are worth more. You are worth everything.
Yi King-Xuan replied instantly.
Besides, with so many products in the family line, we can't rely solely on this one, can we? My anger left me dizzy. I felt an overwhelming urge to dissect his head to see what kind of logic resided within. Noticing my increasingly sour expression, he quietly inquired, "What should we do now?" "Mom said to listen to you." I sighed heavily, gazing out the window. "I'll point you to a clear path. Why not jump out now?" The atmosphere became unbearably awkward, but fortunately, my phone rang just in time. As I pressed the answer button, my mother's voice pierced through the line. Shrill and frantic. "You need to come back. Your sister is in trouble." Zinqiang was sobbing uncontrollably, barely able to articulate her words, while my mother stammered, as if concealing something unspeakable. After a while, I finally grasped the situation. To put it simply, my sister was nearly assaulted, and the perpetrator was none other than my mother's newly acquired partner, Wu Dexing. I knew my sister was foolish, but I never imagined she could be this naive. My mother, flustered and helpless, exclaimed, "What do we do now? With your sister like this, and your Uncle Wu has run off. How am I supposed to live the rest of my life?" Her lamentations annoyed me, and I replied impatiently, "What can we do? First, we need to report it to the police and get him arrested." Upon hearing this, my mother's face paled, and she hurriedly protested, No, we can't report him. If the police get involved, your Uncle Wu will truly be finished. Besides, a fly doesn't land on a seamless egg. If Ying had been more cautious, the man wouldn't have assaulted her." There it was again, the familiar response from my mother. In my previous life, when I informed her of that old pervert's intentions towards me, she reacted with the same obstinacy. At that moment, I realized my mother was utterly infatuated. She would rather believe her daughter to be a wayward wretch than acknowledge that her beloved was a lecherous old man. Zinqiang had ceased her tears, but her expression now bore an even deeper despair. Seizing a moment when my mother stepped out, she confronted me. "You knew he was this kind of person all along, didn't you? Why didn't you tell me?" Of course I knew. How could I not? I was simply more astute and decisive than she was. When I uncovered Wu Dexing's true nature and realized my mother would not stand by my side, I fled that den of iniquity in the dead of night, choosing to live independently. The money I had previously earned was mostly in my mother's possession, leaving my life after leaving home exceedingly challenging. I had even attempted to seek assistance from my affluent sister, but in her moment of glory, she wouldn't even spare me a glance. "And now, you have the audacity to blame me? What a bold face you have." I glared at Zinqiang, indignation boiling within me. She was momentarily taken aback by my words. I sneered at her. "What does it matter if you live again? What does a different choice mean? You must see it now, no matter how you choose. The one who loses is always you. Do you know why?" Zinqiang bit her lower lip, her expression contorting with rage, her eyes filled with hatred. I leaned closer, gently caressing her lovely face, and smiled. "Because you are foolish, always placing your hopes in others. You have never considered changing anything by relying on yourself. Silly sister. A foolish, worthless person, even if reborn 100 times, can only perform 100 different acts of folly. I'll kill you." Suddenly, she lunged at me, seizing my collar in an attempt to strangle me. However, before she could make contact, the bodyguards burst in and pinned her to the ground, her screams echoing like a slaughtered pig. I crouched down to observe her closely, shaking my head in disbelief. Tess, do you really think you're still on the same level as me? Just allowing you to get close was already a favor. How dare you think you can kill me?" She writhed violently on the floor, like a madwoman. Oh, perhaps it wasn't fair to say she was mad. In her current state, she was indeed deranged. That night, my mother called me, tears in her voice. "What should we do? Your sister has gone mad and jumped into the river. By some stroke of luck, she was rescued in time. Yet, before her plunge, her mind had already been unraveling. The shock of the frigid water only exacerbated her instability, and now, she went into a frenzy at the sight of any man, intent on violence. My mother, left with no options, had to pay out of her own pocket to admit her into a psychiatric hospital. Are you sure you want help? Your mother is struggling. Ji Tingxian inquired cautiously, glancing at me like a eunuch awaiting a decree. I shot him a disdainful look. Do not concern yourself. Her understanding is commensurate with her suffering. Focus on your own affairs. I've heard the workers haven't been paid for over 2 months and are about to riot. He thumped his chest confidently. You needn't worry about that. I have a solution. In a few days, just wait to see how your man performs. I regarded him with skepticism, muttering to myself, can I truly trust him? I must admit, when it comes to disappointment, Ji Tingxian has never failed to meet my expectations. Within days, he convened a so-called mobilization meeting with the company's employee representatives. Observing his ambitious demeanor, I assumed he had devised a clever strategy to weather the crisis. To my astonishment, he proposed suspending wage payments to the workers while delivering an extensive speech. I understand that everyone is facing difficulties, so I am willing to lead by example. From today onward, I, Ji Tingxian, will also forego my salary, just like everyone else. I believe that as long as we all unite, we can overcome this challenge. The stench of capitalist exploitation was nauseating. The workers in the audience could hardly tolerate his nonsensical ramblings, clamoring to confront him. Just as the situation threatened to spiral out of control, a striking figure strode onto the stage, brandishing a slender stick, and aimed a blow at Ji Tingxian's back. An immediate hush fell over the crowd. Ji Tingxian stood frozen for 2 seconds, turning around in disbelief. The one striking him was none other than his own mother, and the one handing her the stick was his own wife. This strike was meant on behalf of the workers. My mother-in-law clutched the stick with a serious expression. You are the son of a wealthy family, living a life detached from the struggles of ordinary workers. Have you ever considered how these common laborers manage to support their families without a salary? Her anger gradually dissipated, giving way to a sense of disappointment. I have shielded you from hardship, yet I never anticipated this would lead to your becoming such a failure. Ji Tingxian rubbed his back, a look of grievance etched on his face. My mother-in-law, with a disdainful gesture, pushed him aside and beckoned me to the stage with a smile, assuring everyone that they need not worry about the company's future. I hereby promise that salaries will be paid as usual over the next 2 months. Should the company be unable to continue operations after that period, I will provide the appropriate compensation as mandated by law. However, I firmly believe we will not reach that point, as my wonderful daughter-in-law has already devised a comprehensive plan to address this crisis. With that, she gently took my hand and added, "Oh, wait, should I call you Chairwoman Xing now? I hereby officially announce that Ji Tingxian has stepped down from his position as chairman." A familiar female voice rang out from the crowd. "Xing Kehan, do not rejoice too soon. I have expended considerable resources to sever your supply chain with the Zhang family. Your materials will soon run dry. Even if you possess immense capability, you cannot revive this deadlock." Lin Qingyan had intruded uninvited, her face betraying her satisfaction in vengeance. "Ji Tingxian, you discarded me for your wife, so do not blame me for becoming ruthless. Did you ever expect that the business your parents toiled for would be dismantled by me alone?" She maneuvered through the crowd, flanked by her bodyguards, approaching me with a defiant demeanor. "Xing Kehan, you have usurped what was rightfully mine. You are courting disaster." Ji Tingxian shielded me behind him, launching into his authoritative rhetoric. "If your intention was to provoke me, rest assured, you have succeeded. Now, step aside." With a wave of impatience, I grasped Ji Tingxian's collar and yanked him back, placing him behind me as I stepped forward to meet Lin Qingyan's challenge, our energies equally matched. "You do not truly believe you have already won, do you? In my previous life, Guoguang Group secured victory by severing Ji's material supplies. Ironically, I had once worked as a live-in nanny, and my employer, Zhang Weiping, was the owner of Ji's material supplier. At that time, the situation was already beyond salvage, and I felt powerless. This time, however, as I noticed events reverting to their original course, I anticipated Lin Qingyan's next move and preemptively reached out to Zhang Weiping. Zhang Weiping, having divorced years ago and remaining single, doted on his 5.5-year-old daughter, Miao Miao, who was notoriously picky with her food. Despite his efforts to remedy her eating habits, nothing worked until I arrived. Within 6 months, I managed to rectify her aversion to food, and her improved demeanor made Zhang Weiping exceedingly grateful. Knowing I had successfully managed Miao Miao in my past life, I was confident I could do so again. The Ji family and the Zhang family had been business partners for years. Leveraging this connection, I invited them to a dinner and presented a chestnut cake, Miao Miao's favorite. The little girl fell in love with it instantly, devouring several pieces, leaving Zhang Weiping astounded and demanding the recipe, offering to pay any price. I declined his money, but insisted on a guarantee of a continuous supply of materials, to which he happily agreed, leaving with my recipe in hand. My mother-in-law expressed concern. "Aren't you afraid he might backtrack?" "Not at all. Even if Lin Qingyan attempts to entice him with benefits, I am confident he will not retract his promise. After all, Miao Miao can only indulge in that chestnut cake for so long. Eventually, he will need to come back to me, and I possess hundreds of recipes for her favorite dishes that will keep him coming back for years." After receiving a phone call, Lin Qingyan's expression shifted from pale to a deep shade of purple, revealing her distress. I taunted, "Why the sudden loss of your smile? Is it a hereditary trait?" Seeing her rendered speechless, I pressed on. "Was it Zhang Weiping who called? Did he inform you that he would not acquiesce to your demands?" "Oh dear, it seems he does not covet your filthy money after all." In a fit of rage, she lunged at me. Ji Tingxian, though lacking in intellect, had enough reflexes to grab her arm and push her back forcefully. "Is my wife someone you can lay a hand on?" In that moment, his domineering remarks seemed less obnoxious. Lin Qingyan stumbled back, signaling her bodyguards to intervene. However, a voice of reason within me cautioned against escalating the situation. I genuinely wished to see how a battle-worn Ji Tingxian would fare, yet I understood that actual conflict could lead to far greater consequences. Thus, I interjected. "Gentlemen, while you are currently protecting her, remember that if she ends up in legal trouble, you 1T receive your wages. Don't say I didn't warn you. What madness are you spouting?" "Oh, you are yet to know. I have already submitted a report to the relevant authorities, accusing you of infringing upon commercial secrets and engaging in unfair competition. The funds you provided to Zhang Weiping have been included as evidence. What now? Someone may find themselves behind bars." Lin Qingyan, unable to withstand the pressure, fainted on stage. Ji Tingxian gave me a thumbs up. "Wife, you are amazing. What would I do without you?"
Get lost.
"Were it not for the fear of our mother's hard work going to waste, I wouldn't bother with your mess." I remarked that the G Enterprise was my mother-in-law's labor of love, and I did not exaggerate. She had recounted her struggles in her youth. Back then, my father-in-law was merely an inexperienced youth, failing in every venture and becoming the village laughingstock. It was only after marrying my mother-in-law that his fortunes began to shift. Eventually, he founded the G Enterprise, with my mother-in-law tirelessly managing every detail. You have no idea how grueling those years were for me. My health deteriorated, and the doctor warned that if I continued at that pace, I would lose the child I was carrying. My mother-in-law reminisced with a bittersweet expression. Yet, despite dedicating so many years to the company, I never held an official position. Ji Tingxian's father always insisted that women should not be entrusted with significant responsibilities.
Bah.
Her anger flared, but suddenly, a sense of pride emerged. He never anticipated he would be a short-lived man. After his demise, both his son and the company will have to heed my words. Just thinking about it brings me satisfaction. Typically, my mother-in-law was an elegant lady, yet when discussing her late husband, her demeanor was surprisingly fierce, which struck me as both absurd and endearing. I smiled and replied, "Fortunately, Tingxian is not like his father. He fully supports my taking over the company. And dare he not?" My mother-in-law took my hand, speaking tenderly, "My dear, you must remember that we women are no less capable than those men. We need not hide in the shadows to support them." I nodded in understanding, smiling in agreement. After much deliberation, I ultimately decided to conceal my actions from my mother and reported the incident to the authorities, resulting in Wu Dexing receiving a 6-year prison sentence. On the day of his apprehension, my mother stormed in, lamenting that I had ruined her happiness for the latter half of her life. I reassured her that happiness still existed. Consequently, I promptly admitted her into a delightful retirement home. Ji Tingxian was dispatched for grassroots training. In my grandmother's words, he was to endure the hardships he had evaded for the past 30 years, sparing us the embarrassment of his lack of ambition. To ensure he received no special treatment, my grandmother deliberately concealed his identity and sent him to the most remote factory under the corporation's umbrella. Initially, Ji Tingxian wailed and threw tantrums, akin to a reluctant child resisting school. This phase came to an abrupt end on the day he received his salary, 1,500 yuan a month. But he relished it with the exuberance of having earned 15 million. That day, he jubilantly called me to boast about his newfound wealth. "Do you know? This is the first time I've earned money through my own labor. For the first time, I feel my existence holds significance, and that significance is labor." From that moment on, Ji Tingxuan's enthusiasm surged, and he distinguished himself through hard work in the factory, repeatedly earning accolades. I had previously thought I had rendered him ineffectual, only to realize that I had simply chosen the wrong path. He was, in fact, a physically capable individual. My grandmother uttered this insight before embarking on her vacation, dragging her suitcase behind her. As for me, I was not afforded such leisure. Both the G family enterprise and my entertainment company were flourishing, and I was inundated with work, counting money amidst the chaos. This delightful agony was truly captivating. The end of the narrative. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed it, Be sure to like and subscribe. Until we meet again in the next story.